Have another session now. So this second session of this today is being handled by Dr. Ramakrishna. I hope Sari is there. Sir, we are available. Yes, sir is there. Yes, Professor Ramakrishna.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes. So he's there. Yes.
I wanted to share
I
a
just
PPT.
say a few words and then you can start.
Yeah. So let me share a PPT with you, and then you can start introduction. No?
Yes.
Can I share a PPT?
Yeah, please share. Yes.
So is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. Make it bigger screen.
Yeah,
Make the screen bigger.
This is already bigger.
Okay, you can remove the side ones, that outline slides. It becomes bigger.
Just a moment. I think it is in a slide mode now.
Yes. Super. Okay. So let me introduce the speaker, the second speaker of the day, Dr. Ramakrishna. Is a professor and head of the Research and Development Center, Stanley College of Engineering Technology, Hyderabad. And to express a few words about this person, Dr. Ramakrishna. Okay. He has received B.Tech and M.Tech and PhD in Computer Science and Engineering from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad. He has almost 16 long years of experience in professional teaching, research, and mentoring. And he has rich experience in guiding and mentoring startups. Okay. So under his leadership, the Department of R&D is progressing and finding solutions to societal impact and industry relevance. So the department promotes research and innovation. Is also an active member of various professional bodies. I was really surprised to see that from IWE, ACM, CSTA, ISTE, CSI, IEE, and so on and so forth. Few more. He becomes active member. And he's also serving as an editorial member of various international and national journals of repute. Okay, that's another. And apart from this, he's continuously serving a couple of national and international conferences as advisory committee members, and he has published more than 50 research papers. And he's possibly is well versed in that, and that's why we are having a topic: a researcher to an author, a journey. Possibly, he will be explaining about the funding opportunities in India. Okay, many of us doing research, we do not know anything about where the fund comes from. Okay, at least we'll get to know what the funding opportunities that is available in India. Okay, mostly we search in the outside country, but there are opportunities available in India, and Dr. is going to explain to you. Okay, so he's the right person to explain to us. Okay, sir, on behalf of the participants present here, we welcome to this session and open to Dr. Ramakrishna for your session.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. A.S. Albert. And thank you very much for inviting me to talk on particularly the research. Good evening, everyone. So to the Indians, and then I welcome all the participants who are participating from different parts of the world. Yeah. Hope I have, how much of time I have, Professor? Yeah. Do I have, how much time is given for this
Can I
session?
just,
Is it 30 minutes or what?
yeah, 30 to
Sir,
45 minutes? Yeah, please.
sir, you can speak for sir, you can speak for 45 minutes to 1 hour, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So that, see, this the topic which is given is almost like it is a continuous, and then there is no boundary for the research. So research is not a part-time activity, as we all know. Research is a full-time activity, right? And then every researcher usually think about the research, and the moment you wake up, and then the moment you just wake up, so it is 24 hours, I mean to say. And see, while you sleep also, you will be a researcher. You never know when you got an idea, and then when you got a solution for the problem that you are thinking. So your subconscious mind will always have the process of thinking on the problem which you usually take up. Uh, yeah. See, I'll be very specific about the research methodology, because as I thought of the research methodology is already covered, or many others will cover about the research methodology. But however, let me have a glance on the research. We all know this research is a process of investigating. In fact, it's an investigation by following a standard approach to understand, analyze, design, develop, and experiment the model or prototype. Sometimes your research may not have any experiments, but it may be end up with analyzing and reporting. Okay? And usually any research methodology have certain standard phases. Obviously, any research, you take up any research, whether it is empirical research, whether it's experimental research, whether it may be any other kind of research, have certain phases. So similarly, even engineering research also have. And when you see the research methodology, and the research method and research methodology is completely different. The method is only a simple one approach, but whereas the methodology is the procedure, the entire procedure that you are in while you are taking up a research work. So identifying a problem domain is the first step of any research. And then once you do that, see, you have to conduct a quality literature review on the domain towards a problem identification. And then after conducting a literature review, actually you will be able to define it. Initially, you may be identifying the problem and the domain, but mere identification of a problem is not the end. So you need to properly define. So definition of a problem will come only after conducting a quality literature review or the survey. So once you got a problem statement, their actual research starts. So till you define a problem, you have to feel that your research have not started. So there are certain prerequisites required to take up any research activity in the research methodology. Then once you got a problem defined, then you have to define a questionnaire. In order to prepare a plan for the research, you have to build a set of questionnaire on the problem or on the research work that you wanted to take up for a definite amount of time. And then once you prepare a questionnaire, then to answer the questionnaire, and you will get all the other things. So you will be defining the research objectives, and then you can prepare hypothesis. See, without hypothesis, no research can be continued. Either it may be empirical research or the experimental research. Hypothesis is very, very important for any research work. So once you have a hypothesis, and you will be permitted, or at least you can go to define the model that fits for carry out this research work, right? And of course, to carry out any research, one would require data with them, right? You have to define a method of collecting the data, okay? And you have to follow certain standards to prepare the data sets. If you're talking about, for suppose if you are talking about a computer science, that particularly the data science, without data set, you can't define a research there. Similarly, if you're talking about deriving the conclusions on analytics, by implementing some analytics on the subjects, you all need data. So you have to define the method to collect the data, and you have to follow certain standards to prepare the data set. I'll not be going in detail about how to prepare a data set and then how to prepare a benchmark data set. See, when I say benchmark, it is universally accepted, right? You cannot just conduct any research on the data created by your own unless it is prepared according to the standards. So this is very important. Why this standard data, the benchmark data is important, you know? You need to compare your research with many other different researchers who are parallelly working across the globe. So for that, there should be a base, right? There should be a base. So the method that you should follow in preparing the standard benchmark has a very important weightage in research methodology. All right? Then, so once, see, of course, after that, you will be always following to prepare the prototype or an implementation, right? So usually researchers prepare the prototypes than completely making a real products, okay? So yes, theoretically you have defined it, right? Theoretically you have defined through hypothesis, but you have to see whether the hypothesis is met or not once after implementing the idea, right? Once after developing a prototype. So for that, you have to test the hypothesis based on certain metrics. Every research will have certain metrics to be followed while you are testing the results. So once you test the hypothesis, okay, based upon certain parameters, the metrics, you have to analyze the results, whether the results have met your objectives which you defined or not, okay? And then you have to draw the conclusions out of the research work you carried out in the different phases. Of course, you will be submitting a report. Yeah. So, as I told you, I don't want to spend much time on the research methodology because it itself is a big course, right? But let me share with you certain do's and don'ts while you are following any standard research methodology. The do's are important, the don'ts are more important. The do's, anyhow, we are following certain standard research methodology approach to carry out a research work. But apart from the stages you follow, these are some of the important points that you have to keep in your mind when you are doing your research work. See, you should define the problem. Okay? When I said define, a definition can't be altered. That's very important. It can't be ambiguous. It can't be altered. It can't be even changed. Then only we call it as a definition. When you define, before definition, you can have any number of iterations to change it. But once you define, the definition cannot be changed. So you have to define a problem. That's what's the definition. Once you define a problem, and then your problem statement will be the same throughout the research methodology, right? And then, see, you have defined a problem. It's good. But most of the times, where the researchers fails, you know, They don't analyze what are the prerequisites of carrying out any research activity. Right? See, identifying the prerequisites of any research activity is very important for any researcher. For suppose, one research required writing lot many reports, but you are not good at writing. Then you have to see that one of the team member had the good writing skills. And if it requires the programming, then you have to learn the programming, or at least you have to see the composition team consists of a programmer. Right? So you have to identify two types of prerequisites. One is HR prerequisites, the others are the resources. Resources also very important. And then see, if you feel that you have to learn or ensure all the prerequisites are with you, then you have to spend a quality amount of time to acquire the skills required for carrying out any research activity. Then you have to prepare a research plan. So I told you, you have to prepare a research questionnaire. So the purpose of preparing the research questionnaire itself is to make a plan. So without a plan, okay, so it's very difficult to complete. That's what the plan must have, the SMART research. Okay, the SMART is very famous, okay, in psychology. And then SMART means the problem which you defined must be specific, right? And then out of the research work must be measurable. You cannot say, I've done a lot. No, how much you did, okay, what is the measurement? Okay, usually when you go for the research activity, certain outcomes you have to float. So that's what, in first 6 months you have done this much, but what is the outcome? How to quantify it? How to quantify the work you have done in the research methodology on your problem statement? So you have to have a measurable outcomes. And then achievable. You cannot say, when you define a problem, you cannot say, I will just have a method to, measure the air. See, if I say like this, I'll find how much air exists in this space. It is undefined, open-ended problem. So you can't define any problem like that. So usually the problem should not be open-ended. See, obviously, that's what the first statement is very important here. So that's what define a problem. Once you have defined a problem, I think you will be maintaining all these things. So it should be relevant to the relevant. Whatever you do, that should be relevant to your research activity. And then time bound. You have to define how many hours of time you need to complete this project, or the different phases of the project. So these are very important things that you're supposed to do while you are doing any research activity or research work. And then you have to ensure, if you are doing any research on animals or they're related to the nature and some chemical or pharmaceutical or even many other which are related to pollution. So you have to acquire the permission from the boards. It's very important. Usually in India, it is allowed to do like that. But so when you are going to publish your work, when you are going to acquire the rights on your work, it's very difficult for you to get it unless you take the necessary permission from the concerned authorities, concerned boards. Okay, and then of course you have to protect your rights. It's very important. Most of the researchers just do the research, but they don't protect the rights. That's what, these are the doable things while you are in research activity. Let us see only few don'ts. Selecting open-ended problem, as I already gave, okay, closed-ended problem and then define a problem. So there is no scope for any open-ended problem as a research activity, right? As a research activity. Even if it is an open-ended problem, you should have a conclusion, boundaries, all right? Otherwise, it will be open-ended problem and then there will be no scope to end. And then next is changing problem statement is not permitted. You cannot keep on changing the problem statements, though it is in the same domain. You will not be permitted. Or you should limit yourself, okay, to one problem. So that should not be done. And you should not deviate in literature review. So the habit of the researchers is like this. They'll start with one paper. They'll get 100, 200 reference papers. They'll keep on exploring, okay, a paper by paper, and they'll find the new problem statements. That's the reason why you should not change any problem statement. And it should be relevant always. Whatever the literature review you are doing, that should be relevant to your problem statement. You should not deviate, though it is related to the domain. Okay, most of the times, the people spend time on literature review because we don't define the boundary. Okay, we don't define the scope. So it's very important not to deviate a literature review and deviate from the model and the design. As we know, we come up with a hypothesis and then a model. Once your hypothesis is clear, once your model is defined, and once your design is ready, your method is ready, you should not deviate. You should not deviate. That's also very important. If you deviate, you'll get so many methods into picture because there is no a single approach to solve any problem in this world. You can find infinite number of solutions for a single problem in this world. That's what we get these many researches on a single problem. But when you are doing it, you should not keep on changing or migrating from one method to the other method. So that wastes the time of the researcher. Okay? And the most important thing is faking results. So for any purpose, let the research results be the genuine. It should be the code of the research. Okay? Putting original results is very important, whether they are improved or not. It's very important to keep the original results as it is. Right? And plagiarizing research is always not accepted in the research activity. You all know what is a plagiarism. Okay? Yeah. So that's just I wanted to make you comfortable in coming with me to publish a work and then how to write a research paper. That's what I spoke about, the research methodology. Right? Hope you are with me. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, please, no, you can unmute you anytime and then stop me, and you can please interact with me for anything that you wanted to get a clarification. Okay? Yeah. So simply, we all understand this research methodology. That's okay. The research methodology is not only for the PhD candidates, the research methodology is for any research. It may be industrial research, it may be academic research, it may be even the analysis, right? Empirical research, engineering research, you name any research, you're funding a project, okay? For any research activity, that is the research methodology that we follow usually across the globe, okay? More or less the same pages we follow, same stages we follow, all right? Now, the challenge is how to author a research work. And the researcher and authors are not the same. We all need to understand this. Okay, we see lot many authors. One can write a poem. Okay, somebody will write poetry, somebody will write essays. Okay, they write the essays, passages, news articles, right? Reports. They all are the authors. Anybody can be an author, but not all authors can be researchers, right? So the researcher, that's what some of the researchers sometimes fails to become authors. You know the reason? They want only results. You take industrial research, most of them don't publish anything. Rather becoming authors, they become owners. Rather becoming publisher, rather approaching publishers, they approach IP agencies, right? Intellectual property right agencies, to protect their methods, innovations, inventions, procedures, right? See, because they know the value of it. Most of the researchers don't mind to become, so they don't want to become authors, because becoming author is not that simple, right? Becoming owner is very simple, but becoming author is not that simple. So that's what, let us see. So what is required for any researcher to become an author? You see, how to author a research work. You carried out some research, or still you are doing some research. Then while you are doing a research, you can use different methods to become an author. Dissertation, usually whenever we do research work or doctoral research or postdoctoral research, we all submit dissertation to the universities to get a degrees. So the dissertation is not a publication. That's very important. Sometimes you can convert your dissertations into publications. Okay, that is secondary. The next is a thesis. Usually a thesis is a report. Thesis is a report usually submitted by the PG scholars or the UG scholars in academia, right? In academia. So by writing dissertation or thesis, you can become an author, though you are not publishing it, right? You are the author of the dissertation. You are the author of the thesis, right? So by writing this also you can become an author. And most important in research is article writing. See, let us see what are the different types of articles. When we say an article, see, once it is published, we call a paper is an article. Prior to publication is only paper, okay, a draft, right? A collection of material, right? And write-up is a paper, preparation of the paper by following certain formats. Based upon the type of publisher you wanted to publish, you will follow certain formats to prepare paper. As long as you are writing it, it is just a paper. Then once you communicate the publisher and then publish it, it becomes an article. It will go to public domain, the P domain, right? And then there are different types of articles that you can publish. Different papers you can write. The state of art paper writing. What is state of art paper writing? See, there is a difference. There is a survey paper. I'll tell you the difference between these two. Coming to the survey paper is nothing but the existing methods or the existing research, right? Or the past research. Simply you can say the analysis and the summary, the conclusions, the findings of the previous research, the old research, is presented through survey papers, right? Whereas coming to the state of art, you are doing a work. Parallelly, there are many researchers are doing the work on the same domain and the same problem, right? And this current work can also be published. The status of the current work can also be published by analyzing the status of the work. That's what we call it as a state of art paper. So that's what always it is recommended for the researchers to publish the state of art papers rather publishing the survey papers. Survey papers are to a researcher to understand, find, okay, understand and find the conclusions of the previous researchers as a background study. But whereas state of art papers will give you the latest information, latest methods, latest happening on the same problem, the contemporary research we call it. So the state of papers always will have only the methods, the proposed methods. Usually the state of art papers will be published in conferences. The reason why, when you present your state of paper in a conference, there will be a lot of discussion. There will be a lot of discussions on the state of papers, and we'll get a lot of inputs from the the authors who are working on the same domain or the problem, and those inputs will help us to improvise the models that we are proposing. That's what it is recommended for the researchers to publish the state of art papers at the beginning. Okay? And then survey papers anyhow, the old happenings, then findings, conclusions will be understood through literature survey. So that is given as a study material. Next is an experimental research. So I'll not go in detail about the experimental research article. And empirical research also is there, empirical studies. And then coming to the experimental research, and most of the science and engineering, you have an experimental research. Not in science. Mostly, in most of the cases, in science you have empirical studies. In engineering, you will have experimental research. Let me tell you a small difference between this engineering research and then science research. Science means, science is nothing but the study about existing things. Social science, biological science, okay? You name any science that is already there, you are just trying to understand, you are studying about it. Whereas engineering is about to develop a model. Okay, you are making a models, you are inventing. But in science, you will not invent anything, you will only discover. Okay, you will only discover, right? You will only invent, you will not innovate. So that's what the science research will always have empirical research. And then engineering research will have always experimental research. All right? And then, see, of course, once you done a research, you will have a single paper, right, as a complete report. So you can write such papers and then publish. So these are the different, there are many. See, I just listed only few, but you have many such ways of writing papers and publishing, right, and transform them into articles. So this is how to author a research work. Of course, you can also write a book. You can also write a book about your complete research work. It need not be always a subject book. It can be even, your research can be also converted into a textbook. You can also give findings as a book chapter. All right? Yeah. Now you can see this one picture will give us the complete understanding of why to publish an article. Why one should publish an article? Why to publish an article? So earlier, see, in industry or everywhere, it is like perform or perish. But in research, publish or perish. Because if you don't publish, there are chances to lose the rights on it. There are chances to lose the rights. Of course, you can fight back to get your rights, but it's very difficult. Without publishing is also, we can protect our rights. I'll tell you a small example how to protect it. You have written a small story for a movie. Okay? Somebody made a movie out of the story which you have written. You don't know how it is, okay, children by them. We don't know how they stole it. But how to prove this is your own story in the court of law? There is one simple method. It's a very simple method legally. You have written any story, you can simply write the story, put a date on the paper, put in an envelope cover, the A4 sheet or envelope cover, seal it properly, okay? Register post to your own address. Just post it to your own address. When you post it through register post or the courier, what happens, you know, the government agency will have a stamp on it with a date. You don't open the document, right? When you find in the future, this story is made a movie by somebody else or used by somebody else to make a money, to do a business. You can just go to a court and then submit this as an evidence. You should not open it. Only court is supposed to open this document. Right? See, you can just submit this. You can say, I have written this story long back. I've just covered this. And then you can produce it as an evidence. If they found it is not open and then it is old, then they will give you the rights. So this is one of the experience which I got through one of my friend who fought in legally to get the rights on the movie. So like that, there are so many ways to protect your rights. Now you see, now there is a saying called publish or perish. But think twice before publishing any article. Okay? If any research brings out some commercial values, let us not publish it. Okay? If any research is funded by an agency, don't publish without any permission. Right? Because you may be deriving some copyrights on it. You may be deriving the IP. If you publish, you will be transferring the rights to the publisher. So you have to have a clarity whether to publish a research work or not, or how much can be published. And before publishing, everybody must read the copyright transfer form. Usually we don't. It is like insurance document. Okay, all legal documents are like that only, so that the people will not read and then sign. We lose our rights. Right? So coming back to the writing research article for publication, you see there are different things. Why publish articles? Articles are scientific journals, right? What are the scientific journals you have? And then what is a scientific research? If you have a scientific research, you can publish it, right? You can publish it in scientific journals. And see, you have an academic style of publishing the articles. You have industry-oriented publications like white papers. You know the difference between the articles and a white paper? The articles are copyrighted. Of course, sometimes even white papers. But in white papers are, nowadays the white papers are purely for the business purpose. They just put the developments of their own business or the ideas to the public so that they'll read and then come for purchasing and using the services. They'll write the white papers. So mostly not individuals will write the white papers. The companies write the white papers. Whereas the articles will be written by our, usually the authors write the articles. That is the difference. Okay, I'll not go in detail about it, but when you are writing any academic article, you should be very careful, right? You see, I'll share with you this PPT, no issue. Okay, you can see while you are writing it, you have to take certain measurements. See, academic, unacademic, and technical words, right? The numbers, ethics, edgings, writing clearly and concisely, active and passive voice, using style manuals and guides. These are certain things which are related to academic styles. So anyhow, I think the other speakers have spoke about it, right? The writing process, okay? Proofreading and sharing. You have to plan your writing. You cannot just write like that. You have to plan your writing. After writing, you have to give it for proofreading. That's very important. Even for the native speakers, when it is going to the scientific community and then researchers community, you have to present it in the form of a universal format. So this document should be accepted by the author or the researchers across the globe. So it should be in the universal format, right? So this is what is the one side which speaks the whole thing about writing a research articles for publication. Yeah. So coming back, writing a research paper. You see, writing about process and findings of any research work of a specific problem at different stages to a publisher. It's very important how to write a paper and then when to write a paper. How to write a paper, that's one, completely we need a session for that. But when to write a paper, as I said, you can write a state of art paper. And literature review level, you can write a survey paper, right? You can write a experimental paper, right? You can write a complete paper. So that's what it is. It is about the process and findings of any research work of a specific problem at different stages to a publisher. That's what we call it a research paper. And research paper shall be called as an article, as I said, once after getting published. Writing a research paper is an art and science. Why it is an art? Why it is a science? It is a science because it's a study. Okay? It's a science, it is a study, it's a findings. It is an art because you are making it a standard. You are presenting it the way the others understand, right? In the given format. So writing a paper is an art, right? Most of the researchers fails to make this art executable. Okay? Now, then it's okay, fine. Why to write a research paper? Why I to write a research paper? I'm doing my research, I'm getting my findings. But what is the necessity of writing a research paper? So the most important thing is, as I said, when you're doing any research work, whether it's a funding research or any research, you wanted to know what is happening surrounding to you on the same problem, same domain. The way how you are expecting you to know the status of the research from papers, similarly the others also will expect. But you should know how much to publish. So to communicate research findings with the peer research groups and to the world, we will go for publishing a paper, write a paper. And then receive academic and professional recognitions, that I don't want to talk much about it, we all know. We'll get some recognitions and rewards, awards, academic performance indicators, okay, as a benefit of writing research papers for the academicians. But whereas for the researchers, even in the funding projects also, you will protect your rights by publishing it. right? And that itself is sometimes a report to your funding agency, isn't it? After doing 3 years of research activity, and you can't say to your funding agency, this is already published by somebody else. So you cannot wait for a complete time to publish a paper. So, and then promotion and career enhancement, that is an added advantage to it. And then publish or perish. It's very important. And then if you have a work, you have to publish. Otherwise, it will get outdated, because research is a dynamic activity. Right? On the same problem, there will be millions of brains works on the same problem and will get solutions. Don't think that you only got an idea. How we feel that there will be 7 different people, the same features. Similarly, there will be at least 1,000, 2,000 members got the same idea about the problem. But it is not about getting an idea. It is about making it real. Right? So, in the process, you have to publish the work at different stages, as we discussed. Right? Am I audible to test?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, madam. So, stages of writing a paper, as I already told you, stages of a writing paper. But you see, plan for research writing, you have to plan it. Prepare a protocol, literature review, ethical approval, collect data. This is very important. The second stage is very important while you are writing a paper. Right? Prepare protocol. The protocol is the standard according to the journal, right? Or the publisher. Literature review, you have to complete the literature review at this level. Ethical approval, you have to take the permission from the authors of the papers that you are referring in your article. Okay? So if you are just giving a citation, it is acceptable in academia. Okay, giving a citation or referring their papers and using their phrases is acceptable. But it is always an ethical to take approval from the owners of the concept. Right? Owners of the concept. And then collect the data. You have to collect the data from the right resource. You cannot steal it. Right? You cannot steal the data. You have, because if you publish, even the data sets have a copyrights, like trick data sets. Okay. See, and the next is analyze data, prepare tables and graphs, decide target audience and journal, and then refine the instructions for authors. And see, it's always you have to refer the instructions for the authors and go through the recent issues. That's very important. You have to read the author's manual always. Then only you will understand the formats, styles, and also the restrictions, and also the permissions that you can get from the journal. Start writing the paper, and don't write the paper and don't write the introduction and then abstract at the beginning. I'll tell you that a little later. See, always it is good to write the introduction and the abstract at the end. Because abstract is all about, you'll be having an abstract all about 150 words to maximum of 500 words, depends upon the journals. But concising the entire work into 150 to 500 words is very difficult unless you cross all these levels of research activity. That's what we'll always write the abstract at the end rather writing it in the beginning, right? And we'll also write the introduction at the end rather writing it in the beginning, because your introduction also will have the conclusions, but not exactly, right? Directions, you'll have a directions of it. Unless you know the entire work with you, you don't get the directions to remaining chapters. That I'll come to you again. So coming to the next, first draft, second draft. And believe sometimes we will write even 10 drafts. Because that's what I said. Becoming a researcher is very easy, but becoming author is very difficult. Right? It is not an easy job for everyone to become an author, but it is easy to become a researcher in your own field, your own domain, at least your own expertise area, out of your experience or enthusiasm. Right? And submit the article electronically as per the guidelines of the journal. That's anyhow the standard. Now let us see the standard structure of any paper. It's a standard structure more or less to all the journals. Okay, and most of the authors, the participants also know this. And title. So I'll not take much time about how to keep a title, because it need at least an half an hour to discuss about the definitions. What can be a title? What can be a keyword? What is an abstract? Introduction, literature survey, and then methodology, results and discussions, conclusions and references. More or less, this is the common. I am not talking about the titles, but these are the subjects. So your title should not have acronyms. Right? Scientific words. It should be in one phrase. It should not contain more than 10 words. There is no rule, but as per the experience, based upon the reviews received from different reviewers, we got this knowledge. How to keep a title. Your title should directly give an understanding to the reader what they are going to read about, what this paper is all about. And then keywords. These keywords cannot be written at the beginning. Okay, of course, after the abstract, certain journals keep the keywords. In certain journals, it is the first keywords followed by abstract. The order would change. Depends upon the type of journals. The keywords can be identified only after completion of the work. And these should be the best describers of your entire work. If I see keywords, I should be in a position to understand what is the paper is all about. One should be able to understand the domain of the research, the problem of the research, methodology of the research. These three are very important. Okay, one is domain, one is methodology, and then it's very important, these keywords. And your keywords will be always 6. 6 to 10 is a good number. 6 is always a standard number to keep. Indexing. Your indexing will be based upon the keywords. So the best describers of your entire paper can be your keywords. So take maximum care to identify the keywords. It is not the subject. If you keep subject titles as keywords, then your paper will not be properly indexed. Right? And then abstract. See, the abstract is the soul of the entire paper. Soul of the entire paper. And then it can be a simply snippet. Right? An introduction, literature review, and then methodology. See, I'll not discuss much about it, but you see, this is the standard structure for any journal or any conference paper. Yeah. And we have come to the end almost. All right. We have come to end almost. I'm sorry. Yeah. So coming to the technical writing, you see, efficient way of writing is to understand, right? So you have to keep these points in your mind while you are preparing any technical paper, and explain every single work you do. Ideal length shall be always 5 to 10 pages, right? It depends upon the type of journal, but always it is better to write papers with 5. See, if it is less than 5, it becomes a poster paper. Okay. And then short papers, we call regular papers and short papers. Short papers are 4 pages usually, and then 5 and above is always a regular paper, right? And the description, see, the papers about the posters are always short papers, right? Support statement with evidence, graphs, figures and tables should be properly presented. The title, abstract, as I told you, it depends upon the journal, but always, see, you take any journal or any paper, they expect you to limit to 150 to 200 or maximum 500, but 500 is gone nowadays. It's a maximum 250. An introduction cannot be more than 2 pages. Okay, and in introduction, and it includes the literature, sir. Or you can keep it separate also sometimes. It depends upon the journal. But see, you have to find the state of art literature survey. There are 2 ways to pick the literature surveys. One is the origin, okay, the origin, researchers' work, and then medieval. The most important is state of art. But when you go for the state of art, the problem is, unless it is well defined, unless it is completed, that kind of literature survey will not have any weightage. Be careful. We always try to refer the latest papers, but we never know whether the work is completed or not. If the work is completed, then we can refer such papers. Don't just refer the papers as they are readily available or they are published. See, the state of art papers will be published by quality journals in the conferences. That doesn't mean that you can refer it. Okay, they are just presented, but they have not come up with any results. They're still thinking of the model they publish. They don't know whether it works or not. If you refer such papers, it will be a minus to your work. All right? It reduces the quality of the work that you are publishing. Okay? So, then methodology, and you have to focus much on the methodology and then results analysis. These 2 are the heart of the entire paper. The methodology is the heart. All right? In result analysis, you also can discuss about how you collected the data, right? From where you have collected, right? What is the benchmark that you have followed? And then you can conclude it. And references you will follow based upon the format, style given by the journals. And it is always good to revise your first draft content errors and then check factual errors, rearrange your ideas, subsections may be rearranged and make a final draft. So these are the certain regular steps that every researcher follow while writing a technical paper. And see, there are 7 thumb rules. 7 rules, okay? 7 simple rules for awful writing. That's very simple, and these are the 7 thumb rules we call. Never explain objectives in a single sentence or a paragraph. If you try, it will fail. Never describe experiments in a single sentence or a paragraph. You cannot explain in single sentence, right? Omitting words that explains. It's always good, right? And invent abbreviations for complex topics. You can define your own abbreviation, acronyms to give abbreviations. Okay? You can define your own. When you feel it is very difficult for an author to pronounce it and read it. If you want to make certain things standard, you can always introduce new acronyms. Citing papers that would support your work is also very important. Stiff and formal writing, it should be very straight. Okay. And then readers are intelligent. You don't bother to explain your reasoning in the interpretations of the results. This is where many of the researchers fails while they are writing. See, we will try to explain everything through a story or through a scenario like that. But you have to mind the papers, who are going to read these papers are going to read by the authors like you. They don't need reasonings, okay, to understand. So these are the 7 thumb rules a technical author supposed to follow for awful writing. And okay, so when it comes to the finally, so what reviewers focus on it, right? What they see, it is not only an innovation or an invention or the vocabulary you used, the language you followed. They have their own procedure. Being a reviewer for the many journals and then conferences, we follow certain formats. Beyond the formats and the templates given by the journals, usually we follow this: completeness of the abstract, originality of the work, importance of the subject, scientific reliability, ethical issues, experimental and the research methods that you adapted or practiced, the results, whether the results are original or fake, the figures and the tables are copied or prepared by your own. Don't copy paste the images in your papers. You redraw it, okay? Then tables and relevance of a discussion, whether this discussion is relevant to the problem or just kept to increase the number of pages, right? And then conclusions are to the mark or not, the discussions are up to the mark or not, and then interpretations. So finally, the presentation and writing styles also will be followed, whether they followed the number of pages are within the limit, the styles they followed, fonts they followed. These are all minor. Every author must follow the user guide, author manual, okay, to follow these standards. A researcher should not spend a time on deviating the styles and fonts, right? But your focus should be on this. You take the help of the people who are good at language, good at drafting the things, nothing wrong. Because always research is a group activity. So these are the major criteria that a reviewer always follows to assess the quality of the paper, right? And then, see, hope I gave some inputs on writing the papers, the way to write, and I thought of taking an example and doing it, but because of the time constraint, so I did not explain you through an example, but actually I planned it. I planned it to explain through a transaction, the levels, what we followed. Okay, when it stuck, what are the reviews? I wanted to show you the real reviews. The small things also stops our paper publication. But these are very important criteria to be followed by the author, by keeping the reviews in mind, right? So given another 5 minutes of time, I'll just also cover the funding projects and then criteria, and then opportunities of getting a research funds. Okay, and nowadays you believe we have a lot of sources to get the fund, but the only thing is we need to have a patience. Okay, consistently we have to work on the proposals. Don't mind if it is rejected, but you have to improvise the proposal and then reapply it to a different agency or the same agency. Now you see the funding projects and then criteria, need of the research and the impact on the society. Whenever they give any notification, you see how much scope is there for that domain, the problem. So it is, when you are preparing, you have to mind how much it impacts the society and whether it is within the scope of the institution's objective or not. Institutions means the funding institution. Okay, the proposal must be within the scope of the notification and relevant to the funding agency objectives. Project domain expertise. So what they see the project domain expertise and then experience that you had on that domain, and they'll also see the feasibility and efficiency of the investigator, principal investigator or the co-investigator. And they'll also see the publications that you had on your profile, right? And then how much you contributed in this domain, right? They'll also go through your profile, not for your academics, right? And many people complain, sir, these funds are given to only IITs. The reason, they feel that there will be at least some quality work in IITs. That's what they give. But you all need to know this fact. Government gives a lot of funding to private companies, private agencies there rather than educational institutions. Why they give a lot of funding to private companies? Because they want outcome. They want a solution for the problem they notify. If you give a confidence that you are capable enough, you are efficient enough to solve the issue, carry out the work. Fundings are not given for namesake. We all need to remember. They are purposeful. They are intended to solve the societal problems, the real-time problems. They are not for just academic learning. Okay, this must be kept in mind. And then budget, of course, budgets only figures, but you have to ensure the budgets are real and related to the claims. And your justification of the budget divisions must be carefully verified. That's very, very important when you are making a budget proposal, right? Of course, recurring and non-recurring, and you take the help of the people who already did it. Then financial potential, see, all of a sudden if this budget is not sufficient, whether the institute which we are working is ready to invest, and is it capable to get back the investments what they gave. They see the financial potential of the problem that you apply, and also the capacity of the people to get back the return of investment. And collaborations and resources. If you have a good collaboration, sometimes if you are very new, you can go with the good collaborations and then take up the work, right? And the resources you had in your area and supporting research on need. So there are so many criteria, but these are the major criteria for any funding project to be selected by funding agencies. And come to the last as a reference for you people. So here is, there are many, but I have listed only few, the agencies that are offering the research funding to various individuals, organizations, academic institutions, NGOs, right? Now DST is the Department of Science and Technology, SERB, AACT, UGC, DRDO, BARC, CDEC. I'll leave this slide with you. This is just flashed for your reference. And I'll leave this PPT with organizers. They can share openly. Okay. And do you have any questions to answer?
Yes, may I ask the participants to raise your questions, clarifications, and comments? Someone has raised a hand, Chandrika. Kindly unmute your audio and video. Kindly raise your questions. There are 2 persons who are raised their hands for the questions. Nia and Chandrika.
There are no questions.
Yes, sir.
An opportunity comes again through this
One second.
platform, I'll share with you one real example of writing a transaction.
I have
sharing
a question. I
funding.
raised my hand.
Yes, please.
Okay. Apologies. I may have missed one of the section, but I was wondering what is actually the difference between technical paper as well as paper for a journal. Is there any difference? Because you are focusing on more of the technical writing. Thank you.
No. Yeah. Actually, there is no difference. Technical paper is a one which is generally written in experimental research for a journal. Right? An approach usually in a technical research. So what are to be considered while writing a paper for a journal? I just shared some of the points, but there is no difference. It is for journal.
Because a lot of the journals, I'm from Indonesia, and a lot of the journals that they request more than between 4,000 to 5,000 words, which is actually more than 5 to 10 pages.
Yes.
So it should be shorter. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it is the same. It is the same.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And together, you see, the 5 to 10 pages will be maximum of 5,000 words. True.
Okay. Single space, I guess, then.
Yes, it depends upon the journal to journal. They define the format and style.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone who has questions?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yeah.
Shiva Krishna.
Yes.
Sir,
Sir, good evening, sir. I
good
have a
evening,
small doubt on about funding and already I published one patent, sir. Some of the mails I've received from the patent office. Your project is going to sanction for Australia funding like that. I received some messages. So can I go through these type of funding approaches? Can I believe are my patent wise how I can approach them? And is it useful for us academic? That is my question, sir.
Sir, coming to IPR, intellectual property rights, as we all know, there are 4 types of IPR. We have patents, design, copyrights, and then trademarks in India, particularly. Okay, we have these 4 types of rights. When it comes to patent, so in patent also there are different types of patents. It may be, if it is a procedural patent, and then it's an innovation hardware patent. It depends upon the patents. It depends upon the patent. Definitely you can go for funding and you can keep it open. See, usually when it is granted, and it will be kept open for the business people to take up and approach you to take the, permission or to buy the patent to make a product. That is the actual purpose of getting a grant for a patent.